I'm so glad that you could join us for another session of Through the Valley. I'm dedicating this talk particularly to people who have lost their loved ones during this pandemic and specifically because of COVID 19. And because of the government restrictions and other constraints, we could not give the loved one a decent funeral. And many parents, children could not attend the funeral, particularly people who are in a different country who could not fly and come to be at this very special, precious moments of the funeral. And you deeply feel hurt and bad and frustrated. And I want to encourage you. Now, we read about Moses, these words, in Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 10. This is the word that God says, "Since that time, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face." In other words, Moses was a very, very special person. In fact, the miracles and wonders that God performed through Moses is remarkable, and the people of Israel considered him as the greatest leader. And God loved him so much that he says, "I speak to Moses, to others I speak through dreams and vision, but to Moses I speak face to face." It is very interesting to know how Moses died. The first thing, Moses did not enter the promised land. Second thing, he died and nobody knows the exact situation in which he died. The third thing, we do not know how he was buried. We do not know who buried him. It simply says God buried him. Where he buried him, what was his condition, nobody knows. It simply says that Moses died. And so it says in verse 5. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died in the land of Moab according to the word of the Lord, and he buried him in the valley of land of Moab. Who buried him? God buried him. Where? In the land of Moab, strangers' land, in a heathen land, in a pagan land. Moses, the greatest leader, was buried. And then it says, adds a very interesting thing, and it says, but no one knows his burial place in that to this day. Isn't it amazing that this great hero of faith, the great leader called Moses, was buried and nobody knows where he was buried? No memorial, no decent funeral, no people hugging and crying and mourning over his body. Do not know how he died. We do not know how he was buried. We do not know where he was buried. And all the circumstances are a mystery. It is simply says, God buried him. Hallelujah. Now, it is so painful when we are not there, when the last rites are done for our loved ones. It is so painful that we could not be there at the funeral. Take heart. The great leader Moses was buried. No funfair, no decent funeral, in a strange and a pagan land. There's a Bible description that says he was gathered to his fathers, and that's a beautiful funeral. He was gathered to the fathers is a beautiful way of expressing death. But Moses, pagan land, in the valley, nobody knows where he died, how he died. Nobody knows where he was buried. Take heart. Don't be discouraged when you are not able to attend the funeral. Don't be discouraged because you feel bad that you couldn't give a decent funeral to your loved one. Moses, the greatest leader Israel ever saw, did not have a decent funeral. Nobody knows where he was buried. God buried him. God has taken care of your family who passed away. You be courageous. and just accept the fact that if the great leader Moses could be buried when nobody knows, I take comfort in knowing that my loved one, because he's in the arms of God, and if he had loved God and knew God, he is safe. Hallelujah. Thank you.